I'm Lisa Stone, and you are listening to Season 8 of Parenting Aces.
Welcome to this bonus episode of the Parenting Aces Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Stone, and I know it seems like we've had multiple bonus episodes lately, and we have, but there's an awful lot going on in the tennis world right now, and I don't want to wait to bring this information to you. I want to make sure you get it in a timely manner. So this bonus episode, and we will have another one immediately following this one, but this particular episode, I have David Hiltzik, who is the father of Jared and Aron Hiltzik. I have the three of them discussing what's going on with the ITF World Tennis Tour. And as you'll hear in this conversation, the tour has had a big impact on both Jared and Aron, though more so on Aron, who is newer out on the Pro Tour. These boys are training hard. They are former University of Illinois players. They have worked and trained their entire lives for the opportunity to play professional tennis. Their parents have supported them along this journey, and now they are kind of in a holding pattern to see what the ITF is going to do to open opportunities back up to players at this level. And by this level, I mean outside the top 200 or so on the tour. So I hope you'll check the show notes. I'm going to actually create one article for this podcast and the next bonus episode with Shelby Talcott that will include links to all of the efforts that they are working on. I hope you'll also check out the article that I posted yesterday and all of the links incorporated there. But there's a lot going on, and we as tennis parents need to understand how all of these things that the ITF is currently doing could impact our junior players. So that's it. I want you to please pay close attention to what the Hiltzik gentlemen discuss in this episode. And also, hopefully, you'll take a listen to my next bonus episode coming out shortly with Shelby Talcott. We have the Hiltzik family, or the Hiltzik boys, with us. Father David, brothers Jared and Aron. Thank y'all so much for coming on the Parenting Aces podcast and speaking with us today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
This all kind of came about for two reasons. One, I saw a post that David had made in a Facebook group that I'm part of dealing with the new ITF World Tennis Tour. And two, I saw a tweet that Jared had posted about his frustration over trying to get into a tournament that was then canceled. And now what do I do? And David and I started talking, and then it kind of came about that, wow, I should just talk to all three of you because your story is kind of that of everyone out there struggling with these new changes. So, David, let's start with you. What, I mean, as a dad, what made you decide to start speaking out about what's happening?
Well, to be honest, I'm a pretty mellow guy. I usually don't, I'm one of those tennis, parents that when they're playing a match, I'm usually quiet. I don't get upset. I don't do any of that. I watch. If they win, great. If they lose, it's part of tennis. You learn from it and stuff like that. But I was just getting so frustrated with both Aron and Jared, just trying to figure out how to play as a professional tennis player now, because you had Aron that was doing real well, but he was in college, so he doesn't have as many opportunities. And so he's just getting out, and he's just trying to get his feet wet, and he's had good results in the past, and he's all excited to go. And boom, ITF changes, and January 1st, he has no ranking. He signs up for 3 tournaments in Portugal. He was the 200th alternate for all 3 for the qualifier. Last year, he was in the main. And suddenly he goes, it's nearly March? He hasn't played a tournament match since January. And then I see the tweet from, Jared that, he can't even, he might be one out in the challenger for the main, but he can't even get into the qualies. So I was just extremely frustrated, and I just went from there. I just laid it all out, about their, life, how they started in tennis, and, they weren't ITF kids. We didn't travel around to Europe or any of that. Everything was in the United States. When you had, two kids trying to make it in tennis, there's a huge cost factor.
Sure.
So, so that was, part of the reason we didn't do ITF, and we wanted them to go to regular school and have a regular, education, go to college, and it's been very frustrating on my part, watching them struggle, trying to figure this out, and, reading about, how ITF is making money through the, feeding betting sites, and, and they both have gotten threats from, people, regards to them losing a match or losing a set. They get tweeted threats, family, I hope this or that, hope you get cancer, I hope you never play again. Yeah. So it's that whole thing with the ITF that's extremely frustrating for me.
Sure. And Aron, talk a little bit about what your situation is now.
Yeah. So right now I've been technically pro for about, 8 months or so. And, I would say my junior year of college, I was doing pretty well. I finaled the 25K. I qualified for a couple challengers, ranked about 700 or so. And then, coming about my senior year, I got a little injured. I was ranked like top 20 in the country, but I wasn't, performing at my absolute level. So I didn't defend too many of my points and moved down to probably like 900 in the rankings, which was last year. And basically, I was still in the main draw of all of my futures. It was fine, but, I wasn't playing too great.
When you say, let me just interrupt you. When you say 900 in the rankings, you're talking about ATP?
The real ATP rankings, yes.
Got it.
This is last year.
Right.
So I was still trying to oh crap, I didn't defend my, I finaled the 25K, and that was 15 points, and I lost first round to Kwiatkowski, who ended up winning it, and it was a really tight match. I was very bummed about that, but basically didn't defend those, dropped my ranking pretty harshly, and so this is me. Now I'm right out of college, graduated. I'm still 900 or something. And I'm like, okay, well, I just found out basically that there's these new rules that, 15Ks, they're not going to count for ATP points next year. And my whole plan was basically 3 years ago is I'm probably going to go play Thailand, go play in some other country that's a bit weaker. And, I think I'm a good tennis player. So I'm going to go out, I'm going to win a 15K, get those actual ATP points, and then be ranked, 400 or 500, come back to the States and just play confident because I'm ranked 400 or 500, and that's how I can believe in myself more.
Sure.
But now I decided, well, they're not going to be worth that much technically because these ITF points, if I win a 15K, I only get these transition points. And so I decided, well, I still think I'm a good player, so I'm going to stay in the States. I'm going to play these 25Ks. And if I final or win one, get my ATP point. And so basically I quarterfinaled one tournament, won a couple of first rounds, had a couple of tough draws, but definitely, I don't think I was playing that great. And that kind of was tough. So I didn't get to do that well. And so now coming January 1st, my ranking literally disintegrated. So now I'm basically the 200th alternate for Portugal, which is for me coming, I finaled the 25K, I've qualified for a couple of challengers. If that was me 2 years ago and they just did the rankings, I would be ranked probably 450 right now, ATP, if they changed that ranking system. So it's just, it's really tough. I've just basically been training the past month and a half, 2 months. I've been in and out of Orlando at the USTA. They've been fantastic with me, helping me out as much as they can. And then I'm just back home in Chicago too, just with my family. I'm kind of being well, my whole plan is to be a tennis pro, but feel like I'm playing Xbox at home and just training all day, you know?
So when you're down in Orlando, I mean, what are you hearing at USTA in terms of helping you guys out?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm even talking to a sports psychologist right now just to get around it. Larry Lauer, he's been helping me a lot.
He's a good guy.
And he's just telling me to just keep digging. You know, your time will come. You know, we don't know what's going to happen with these rules, and just keep working. And that's all I can do right now. So basically, when I'm in Orlando, you know, I haven't really specifically talked to the coaches about like what their thoughts are on the rules, but I'm just saying, like, guys, I can't get into these tournaments, you know, what can I do? And they're just kind of saying, just keep working. And that's all I've been doing. I've just been working. So
that's got to be very frustrating. Jared, what's your situation?
Yeah, so my situation, it's a little different. Mine, obviously, so I'm ranked ATP, around 350 right now. I was the same ranking pretty much at the end of last year. So the main difference for me is just not being able to get into the same tournaments that I once was able to. From a challenger perspective, qualifying, I was able to be pretty much seated in all challenger qualifiers and even in the main draw of a couple. But that's kind of been the main difference for me. I think change is good. I think change is something that can always be needed. And it was just one of those things where the ITF and ATP will continue to collect data and see how things are going. And obviously they've made small changes right now, but as we continue to progress, I do feel like there will be more changes coming, but they just need some more data first.
So what happened? You tweeted about this tournament in Mexico that you were planning to play. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that whole situation? What happened?
Yeah. So this year, kind of just where my ranking is, the opportunities to get into main draws of challengers are highly, I use the terminology gold, like people just hang on to them. So sure. Cuts are a lot harder. And if you do get in, you most likely you do go just because of the limited opportunities. And I had a couple good results in Dallas and Cleveland, making a quarters and around a 16. And I knew that last year at this time I had some good challenger results as well in Drummondville and had 15 points to defend this year. And so Guadalajara, that challenger, was pretty much going to be my last chance to get into a challenger with my 350 ranking. If I was already pretty close to getting into tournaments with 350, if I can't defend those Drummondville points of 15, that's going to drop me to 380, 390. So I can pretty much kiss those opportunities of getting into main draw challengers goodbye.
And so what happened with Guadalajara?
So we received an email from the ATP just saying that the Guadalajara Challenger has been canceled due to sponsorship issues. That's pretty much the only information that we were given.
And have you been able to find out any more about why they canceled the tournament?
No. It doesn't bother me too much with the reason why. Sponsorship is usually due to hospitality or just the inability to get the funding for the tournament, which we're going to see is going to continue to be very tough for these tournaments to put on. Just with having to pay for hotels now for the tournaments, it puts them in a really tricky situation in a sport where not a lot of money is being brought in at this time at the challenger and futures level.
Right. And I mean, this whole issue of hospitality, I saw something, I think it was from you on Twitter, Jared, that most of you guys don't stay in hotels anyway. You try and find families that can put you up. And so this whole notion of the ITF requiring the tournaments to provide hotels really is kind of silly.
It is in a sense. Obviously, there are some tournaments that are in really nice areas and have a great support crew with families that are really willing to house, and others are in cities that just don't really have the resources to put up players comfortably to perform at the highest level. So it's a little tricky dynamic there in that sense, because it's trying to, yes, it's amazing that they're trying to help us out with the hotels, but I guess in some tournaments it's not as necessary as others.
Mm-hmm.
This is David here. One of the interesting things you also got to talk about is that Jared and Aron would fly up a lot to Canada, to be close to play some tournaments and get in and things like that. And Canada canceled all their ITF tournaments. And in fact, both boys even went to Israel, I think a year ago or 2 years ago also. And all the ITF tournaments in Israel have been canceled.
Right.
And most of the ITFs in the United States right now are in what I think Aron told me was like California. There was one one in Arizona. They're mostly California and Florida. Yeah. And then Aron's trying to go to a tournament in, the 15,000K in Florida that's coming up in March. And you got to figure the whole idea of the ITF was trying to make things more, cost effective, as a parent. So I'm sending Aron to California on, flights. He's going to have, stay somewhere, for the qualies. So for him to try to win in a qualifier, it's probably going to end up costing $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Or more, yeah.
Or more, yeah.
Just to get into the main draw. Just to get in.
Just to get into the main draw, yeah.
Right, and have a shot at what? If you win the tournament,
right.
How much money is
just
there?
Get these ITF points, yeah.
Get points.
Well, but prize money wise, what is there available?
Yeah, I'm not even sure the final winnings for winning a 15K are right now.
Are around 2,000.
2,000. So you will have spent at least that to be at the event.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
so this is
win.
not about the money. I mean, this is the point I'm trying to make is
definitely
this is
not about the money.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's not about the money. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
we have our college degrees.
Say again?
Yeah. The old theory of what the ITFs was saying, they're trying to make it easier, more cost effective, better, and right now it's not showing that.
Right.
It's not as cost effective. It's harder to get in. My question is, what happens if, it was, one of my kids were injured and they can't, you're suddenly, you're injured and you're trying to get back. That's another thing. That's, how is that going to work? How are you going to be able to get your ATP points?
Right. Let's talk about the wild cards for a second. What are y'all hearing about that? I mean, USTA made a plan for wild cards. That was kind of one of the ways that USTA was going to take care of the American players. What are y'all hearing about that?
This is Aron speaking.
I've always... Sorry, go ahead.
You want to go, Jay?
Yeah, I'll go. So, I mean, wild cards are always at the discretion of USTA, the tournaments, and you like to think just if you put up results, then hopefully that you'll be granted wild card into future events, and that the organizations just continue to help players that they see have a future and have been playing well and can continue to play. So honestly, I haven't looked into any of the criteria. I pretty much just try and worry about my own tennis and just try and get better, not rely on wild cards. If they come, great. If not, then you just keep getting better.
And Aron, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no. So actually my first tournament of the year, this past year, I was playing a 25K in Palm Coast, and I came for the qualifying and got the hotel and everything, and Jared was going to come a couple days later. We were going to room, and I was actually lucky to be given a wild card, which is fantastic. So no, I'm right on the same page with Jared. It's just, we just got to focus on our tennis, and if we get the wild card, that's great. If not, then just got to keep working.
But you were saying that, getting into these events is like gold now. I mean, the wild cards, they're gold times a million, right? I mean,
they're gold. Like, I would do anything right now to get a qualifying wild card for a 25K, So, yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy. So, I mean, y'all are out there. You have a lot of friends that are, in your same situation. Have y'all figured out what you're going to do to kind of ride this out until the changes that can fix things are in place? And I mean, hopefully these changes are coming.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, this is Aaron. Yeah, basically, what me and Jared have just been saying, like, we're just going to keep working until, whatever can happen with the new rule system. But, we do have our college degrees, and we got a little side business going on right now, and just kind of working on that and just kind of keeping us busy. But at the meantime, we're just going to keep training.
Well, plug the side business. Come on now.
Or you can say that, Jared. I don't know.
So we started a company called Recovery for Athletes. So basically providing recovery tools that both my brother and I have used that we have found beneficial to us. So that's been a little side gig that we've been doing. It keeps us busy and keeps our minds fresh. So yeah.
Who are you marketing it to? Are you marketing it to the players directly, or to coaches or academies, or how does that work?
To high-level elite athletes, players, people who have had injuries before, physical therapy places, chiropractors, kind of that whole niche. So we do our advertising on Google, Facebook, Instagram, kind of those channels. It's been fun. So
one of the perks of the new
busy.
Say it again, Aaron.
Yeah, it's one of the perks of the new rules. It's giving us time to focus on other.
Oh, and I enjoy that. This is David. I enjoy that. I see right now Aaron's been home for a while. I've been enjoying. I haven't seen 4 years in college and all that. So it has been enjoyable for him to be home, and to see Jared a little bit now and then a little bit more. I mean, so that's been enjoyable.
Right.
The problem is it's not only with, if you think, that's the fun part. If you think about, earlier today I heard Aaron was talking to one of his former coaches and Bill Heiser in Florida, and he was telling me about, he knows at least 10, Aaron told me Bill knows at least 10 people that quit already. They just quit. They can't,
What does that mean? What are they going to do?
Right, yeah.
I mean, are these kids that hopefully went to college at least?
Yeah, I don't say, yeah.
But he, even him, financially, a lot of these academies and everything, there are going to be so many less, people playing, and then I find it a little strange how they're trying to get only the top 100 juniors are like gold. But if you really look at it, if you had a lot of money, you can travel around the world and, you could build up some ITF points and come top 100. But is that, is somebody that's, Nandy in the ITF, is he, that hasn't done a thing? Is he more worthy than somebody that's coming out of college that, top 20 college players considered like 500-600 in the world? They used to be, at least,
Right. And I mean, there's an argument that top 100 ITF isn't necessarily the top 100 players in the world. It's just the people that earn those ranking points.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's a real shame. I mean, I feel like, kids like y'all that stayed stateside for your junior tennis, stayed in public school, went the college route, did everything right in my opinion, everything that, we were all told is the way to go about this. And now they've changed the rules. So you've played the game really well all these years. And now that it's time to start making some real money, the rules are changed. It's got to be terribly frustrating.
Oh, very.
So what's next? I mean, you say you're going to continue training, and I guess you have to be ready when the opportunities come. So that's kind of a given. And, what do you do for income? Aaron, you're back home, and David, that's very generous of you. But I mean, how long does that go on? I mean, that's a tough situation for, a 20-something to be in.
Yeah, it's Aaron.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, yeah, it's a super tricky situation. This definitely wasn't a part of my plan. My whole plan was I'm gonna move to Orlando, have my coaching situation, and then go play 3 weeks of tournaments, go back for a week and train. And that's kind of changed now. So now I've been back home. It's nice. I love it being with my family, and that's great. So basically now I'm just working on this website with my brother. We're getting income from that, which is fantastic, and we're just trading stocks because we're idiots. But so that's been fun, I guess. But that's how we're getting our income right now, because we are tennis players, and it's what we do, and we train like we're professional tennis players. So I'm gonna keep working as hard as I can on my tennis game. Meanwhile, in the off time, I'll be working on this website and growing that, getting the name out, and we're partners together, so it's been fun. But
let's give a plug to the website. What is it? And we'll put it in the show notes so people can click and take a look.
It's recoveryforathletes.com.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Thank you for
that. Of course. So I have a question for y'all. Then this is something that came up on Twitter yesterday from Peg Connor, who used to be in charge of giving free stuff out to kids from she worked at Prince. And she asked the question, how many of these players coming out of college have business plans for their professional tennis career? Did you guys create a business plan for your pro career?
Are you saying after pro tennis or for tennis career or? For
tennis, like as you were finishing college, moving on to the pro tour, did you have a business plan in place for how you were going to go about your professional tennis career?
Yeah, so mine was towards the end of my senior year, just sitting down with my coaches at Illinois, and my junior coach, Billy Heiser, and I kind of developed a plan where I was going to move to Tampa and start training with him. And then that turned into, he brought along Christopher Williams along. So she was my fiance at the time, but wife now, we moved to Tampa and started training full time. And so I got a full-time coach, had my training center and everything. Fast forward a couple of years, we saw the opportunity, or fast forward 1 year, we saw the opportunity to train at USJ in Orlando. The new center's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And everything's usually been pretty cut and dry for where I've been headed and where I've wanted to go. And it's been a easy system with you kind of dominate the futures level to get yourselves into the challengers, and then you make your way up into the ATP events. So that's kind of been my business plan this entire time.
Did you have dollar amounts attached to any of those items? I'm like this, the coaching is going to cost me this much, and I have the ability to earn this much if I get, to this level in these events. And
yeah, so I developed a bunch of pretty strong relationships throughout college and after, and was able to secure some funding to help my tennis, because I knew that having a full-time coach and traveling, that was going to cost something. But in my opinion, this was the right way for me to do it. If I wanted to be a professional player, I had to go all out, and I couldn't really skimp on anything. So I treated myself as if I were a top 25 pro and just doing what I had to do to give myself the best opportunity. And I feel like I did that to a T. So I left everything out there and we did it, and we made some great strides.
And now moving forward, you're just kind of on hold. Is that what I'm hearing? I mean, I'm kind of at a loss to understand what y'all are doing while this all kind of works itself out, because it seems like things were very logical before. Like you said, you dominate the futures, then you move to the challengers, you dominate there, then you move on to the ATP or WTA tour. Now that's not so cut and dried.
It's sort of like a holding pattern right now until, I guess, at this date, until everything's figured out. So they're this, as you know, both Aron and Jared are just working hard, just trying to see what they need to do within the system that they have now. They, you know, besides, you know, signing that petition, you know, that's all they can do.
Right.
You know,
I wouldn't say that the business plan has changed at all. It's still getting through the challengers to get the ATP. It's just a little bit more difficult now to get into those challengers.
But meanwhile, you still have the expense of a coach and your training and your living expenses and all that. And it sounds to me as though it's become much harder to get yourself in a situation where you're actually going to be able to come out, you know, in the black financially.
Right. I mean, I have had to make some adjustments. I stopped traveling with a full-time coach, and that was mutual. And I think it's going to work out in good sense. But so I have a coach working with me now here, Dennis Navolo, who he went to Illinois as well, and he's been great helping me out, and he really looks after us. So, I mean, the tournaments where I have had to travel, I've had a pretty good support crew there with friends and support over there, so it hasn't been too lonely, and you know, we stay in touch all the time. So financially right now it's just tough, obviously, living all the time off just my wife's income. That's basically how we're living. So she's been a trooper with that. But I mean, I've never really
about mom and dad helping a little bit.
Yeah. No, yeah, you guys do, obviously.
Well, she's a keeper, Jared. I'm gonna just tell you, I did that. My husband went to law school right after we got married, and we were living off my measly income. And yeah, it's challenging when there are two of you living off one.
Yeah, she is a big trooper. You got to remember, Jared could be away for, you know, sometimes 2-3 weeks at a time.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's another podcast we need to talk about being married on tour, having a serious relationship on tour. Aron, what about you? I mean, how has it changed your, you know, you've moved back home, obviously. That's a big change. You know, from a financial standpoint, did you have a business plan? Has this impacted your business plan?
Yeah, no, it's definitely I've made some changes. I got some help financially. I didn't get as much help as Jared was able to get, but no, I was still able to travel and do all of my training successfully at USTA because, you know, they let me use the facility and I get some coaching, and it's fantastic. But while I travel, I don't travel with a coach. So it's been a bit more difficult to have that all-in top 25 mentality like my brother has. But, you know, I've done what I could, that's for sure. You know, I wouldn't say that I've been as successful as I was hoping, you know, as I was hoped to get a full-time coach and just kind of work one-on-one while I'm traveling, while I'm not. So, I mean, that's definitely been difficult. But as I was graduating, these new rules came out, which definitely made it a bit more tricky on, is it worth it for me to, you know, move to Orlando, get my apartment, and have that whole situation of just like, you know, I'm there, I'm going to be training all the time, then I'll go play my tournaments and come back, and I'll be financially big time in the red. Or right now, I just am in and out of my house in Chicago, and then I'll go back to Orlando to train for a little bit for, you know, a week or two and stay with my brother. And thank you, by the way, for letting me stay there all the time, Jared.
That's what I was going to say. So, I mean, you do have a place to stay down there. That's good.
I do. Yes. No, it's fantastic. But, you know, I don't want to be a burden, obviously, to always stay there and be the brother, you know, with the wife and the husband.
That's what we do for our siblings. I'm sure Jared and his wife are thrilled to have you, right, Jared?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's a tricky situation, but you know, I'm just gonna trust my work that I'll be putting in, and if I start making some strides, maybe I'll start getting some funding, and then I can travel with the coach and just kind of work the ladder. But it's definitely going to be a lot more tricky. So I'm just going to have to sit down and kind of discuss some other routes that I can take that can make it the easiest for me on my tennis and financially. So.
Yeah. When y'all go down to Orlando to train, is there a cost to you to train there?
So no, USTA is amazing with just helping out American tennis. It's truly been a massive blessing having them supporting us all the time. So that's something that we are very, very appreciative.
That's great. Yeah. And can you go down there as often as you need to, or is there a limit to how much you can train there?
They just want to help as much as possible. So it's truly as much as you want to go, that they'll continue to support.
That's fantastic. I'm really happy to hear that they've offered that to you guys, and that they're supporting the American players that way. I think that's really, really good. Good to hear. Yeah. So I want to switch gears a minute and talk a little bit about some of this craziness that's been going on social media as it pertains to the betting websites and just these god-awful messages that some of you guys have been getting from people who weren't pleased with the outcome of your match for whatever reason. Can y'all talk about that?
Yeah, I just found out. I didn't even know about this, and then one day Jared was talking about. He might have been talking to somebody about another tennis player. I just got a bunch of these, tweets about about how I played and stuff, and I didn't even know that was going on. Yeah, and then all these, I heard from all these different tennis players. Yeah, it happens all the time. Yeah, it's crazy.
So I mean, this is Jared. My whole opinion on it is that, look, there's betting in all sorts of sports, and the unfortunate part with tennis is that it's very individualized. So it makes you an easy target to get a hold of, especially now with social media and just the ability for your name and your profile to be searched and people to send you messages. It's very easy now. I promise if a basketball or a football team, or that they were individuals instead of a full team, that they would be receiving the same thing. So that's just something that you laugh it off when you get it. Kind of a joke now that when us players get them, that it's a joke. And the ATP and ITF have opened up a portal that if you do feel threatened, and just to contact them, and then they will bring the higher authorities into play if there is an issue.
After what happened to Petra Kvitova, it's kind of hard to just kind of laugh this stuff off, I would think.
For me, I guess I haven't been traveling overseas that much, but most of the messages that I get are from far away from where I am, and yeah.
The English is usually pretty poor. It can be sort of humorous in that way.
Yeah, so. And it's easy to block people now and everything, so yeah.
What about you, Aron?
Yeah, no, I've gotten posts even since I made my Instagram profile public. I would even get some posts on a picture with me and my girlfriend, and some guy would say, can't believe you lost that, you should have cancer, all this stuff that is just, on a picture of me and my girlfriend, just stuff like that. And I've gotten Instagram messages and tweets at me from just losing a match and horrible things said, but you can't take it that seriously, technically, even though they are very serious things that are said. They're horrible, and things definitely should be done, but it's for us tennis players, at our level, I think with our mentality, we have to kind of laugh it off.
Yeah, that's crazy. Jared, you recently did Behind the Racket for Noah, and it was pretty personal.
Mm-hmm.
What made you decide to share your story like that?
It's just something that it's who I am, and it's just how I grew up, and just it's an insight to my life that is, I guess, more beyond the results. So it just gives an insight to, just an insight to my life, and just my childhood and how much my parents have sacrificed for us to play tennis at the highest level.
What kind of response are you getting?
It's been tremendous responses. I've got a ton of support, and it's amazing that Noah's doing this. It's truly an unbelievable idea, and probably one of my favorite comments that I saw was someone that commented that said that, hey, I played high school tennis at the same time as this kid and always thought he was just some rich North Shore kid. And I guess it kind of changes guys' perspectives about like, yeah, so my parents sacrificed a lot, but they wanted the best education for their kids that they could get and for them to play tennis. And I mean, their sacrifices were instrumental.
Yeah. I mean,
this is David. They didn't only play tennis. Everybody thinks we were till like 8th or 9th grade. Both Aron and Jared played travel baseball and travel soccer, and so we were sort of a little nutty running around with all that. And then eventually we had to say, you got to pick a sport. Mom and Dad can't, run around all over the place. I mean, even with tennis, Arlen and I, we had a streak of 8 Thanksgivings where we weren't together because Jared was in a different age group. I traveled with Jared, and Arlen would travel with Aron when they went to tournaments. So it was pretty crazy but they loved it.
Right.
I remember a time Jared lost a match, and he was upset and crying. I hate this sport. I don't want to play it again. And I'm in the car with him. I think we were running to do baseball after, and I go, Jared, that's great. Mom and Dad will have more money. We can travel the world. We can do all this other stuff. This is awesome. And by the time I got home, he turned to me and goes, Dad, you know what? I still want to play.
Good reverse psychology there, Dad.
Yeah.
What's the age difference between you two?
2 years.
2 years. All right. So
21 months
to be exact.
21 months.
Okay. So did y'all ever overlap age groups? Or did y'all just purposely not play the same age group?
No, I played up a little bit, but technically we stayed in our age groups. We only played once when like the boys 12s, I think, or something.
Mom was bawling during it.
Yeah. But then we did play once like in a actual futures, which was interesting. But yeah.
What's that like, having to play each other?
Terrible.
Yeah, how was that, Jared? That was horrible.
It's awful.
Yeah. It was I don't know. It was 7-6 in the third, and it just was messed up. It's still good.
and did y'all like go out to dinner after, or how did that work?
Yeah, I mean, we always have.
We're fine. Yeah. We've always been super close, and we just want the best for each other. So
that's awesome. What was it like growing up and both being really good athletes? It sounds like y'all were very well-rounded athletes as well. Were your parents like great sports parents? Do you have some good stories, some good juicy stories to share?
Jared, why don't you share your getting kicked out of the USTA for 3 months because of anger issues?
Yeah, so I mean, being however old I was, 11, 12, I obviously was not mature at all, and just really wanted to win. I hated losing and let my emotions get the best of me most of the time, and ended up getting suspended by the USTA for 3 months just because I got too many point penalties, and it's probably the best thing ever for me, just because it really mellowed me out and made me appreciate what I had before. So that was something that definitely shaped me as a human being.
Do you remember what you did during that 3-month suspension? Like, were you still hitting tennis balls, or did you just decide I'm going to just take a total break?
No, I think I was still hitting, and then, I mean, I had a ton of school friends, so just hung out all the time. And
you had baseball, too.
Yeah, I had baseball, so I kept myself busy. I mean, at that time, I wasn't really planning on playing professional tennis or anything. It was more of just being really competitive at that young age.
And Aron, did Aron continue to play during that time?
Yeah, I was always more mellow, I would say. I never had any suspensions, but this is pretty cool though. So for the Kalamazoo boys 18s, Jared ended up getting the sportsmanship award there, which is kind of cool to see that over time. And then I happened to actually get the same award also when I was 18. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's beyond pretty cool. That's really amazing, and a true testament not just to the two of you, but also to your parents for raising upstanding young men. So well done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So what else do you want to share with the Parenting Aces audience? I mean, I'm loving chatting with you guys, and I would love to hear more about your junior development and all that. It sounds like y'all had a pretty sane upbringing in the sport.
Yeah. We definitely, we grew up with a very normal lifestyle. We played tons of different sports. And then, once tennis kind of took over, me and Jared, we worked with Billy Heiser growing up, and, we still weren't thinking, play tennis professionally. I think we're looking at our tennis recruiting thing. We saw we had a coaching visit from, some random school, and we're getting super excited. We couldn't believe it. And then fast forward, 5-6 years, and we're playing for Illinois, and we're on the same team together. And so I just thought that's pretty special that, we were able to accomplish that, go the high school route, public schools. We never traveled to go around the world, play ITFs. I played a few ITFs, but they're all in the States. And, I just thought that's pretty cool to be able to accomplish that. And we both played in the Junior US Open just through playing in the States. And we just thought that's a great accomplishment.
I think that's the first time I met all of you it was my first US Open, and Noah's mom was with me and introduced me to you guys. I don't know if y'all remember that. It was about 8 years ago. So yeah, it was a while back. Your mom was there, and so
Noah's mom and my mom get along pretty well. So.
Yeah. So that was a while back. So, I mean, growing up, going to public school, so many kids now are doing virtual school or homeschooling, so that they can travel more. I think your story is going to become kind of the rare example as tennis continues on, unless something changes,
Yeah, it was a little crazy because they went to New Trier High School here, which is a very tough school and high academics and all that, and we had to figure out how to get them out of school earlier, so they would try to set their schedules so they'd be done at 2:00, and I'd have to pick them up, and then I would have to drive. And how it was in Chicago, you try to get the better players to play. There was always one or two clubs that had better players, so you wanted them hitting with them and things like that. So I would pick them up at 2. I had to rearrange my work a little bit, and I'd pick them up at 2 at Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we had to get on the road immediately. And I would drive 45 minutes to an hour. We'd go to LaGrange, and then they would do 2 different types. They might have a lesson, and they might have 2 groups, and I'd get them dinner at 6. And they'd get done at 8:30, and then I'd drive all the way back for an hour home, and they'd have to get their homework done, or they were doing it in between a little bit. And we were doing that Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, I remember. So it was a lot of commitment, but they appreciated it, and they worked really hard. So.
And obviously they did well in school. You guys, going to University of Illinois, that's a pretty good accomplishment.
Yeah, it was tough, but our high school, for them working with us, just like USJ helping us out, New Trier was amazing in letting us pursue our dreams and rearranging our schedules and just really working with us. And it starts with communication, and that was the number one thing, that we were just communicating great with all of our teachers and really on the same page. So they wanted to support us. When I'm back home, I stop by by high school all the time and talk to my teachers just because we developed such strong relationships. People think I'm pretty weird because of that, but
I think it's great. I still see some of my high school teachers when I go home, and I'm in my 50s. Yeah, so there you go.
For sure. Yeah. And just being in the public school, I mean, developed some unbelievable relationships with my friends. And even though my best friends now, they live in Seattle and LA, that they were still groomsmen at my wedding, and we've been friends since 5th grade. So it's something that if I could do all over again, I'd do the exact same thing.
Do you think when you guys have kids of your own, will you introduce them to tennis?
I think it's going to kind of make its way naturally. We're not going to obviously force our kids into anything. My wife was a gymnast and I was a tennis player, and her family has a big golf background. So I think we're going to play pretty much every sport, maybe stay away from the contact sports like my parents had to stay away from. But we'll see.
What about you, Aron? Is this something you would want to have your kids play?
I haven't really thought that through so far. You know, I've been dating the same girl for 3 years, and we're super close.
I'm not saying you have to make a commitment.
Yeah. I'll probably do the exact same thing that my brother would do. I feel like he has a good eye for knowing the right things to do, and I just think that whatever in the future, my children will pick up whatever they enjoy the most, and I'll just be as supportive as I can.
That's fantastic. You guys are just such a pleasure to chat with. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
I hope things settle soon so that you can get back to your business plan of playing professional tennis the way you want to play it and continuing to move up the ranks and, get into those ATP events on a regular basis. And I look forward to watching both of your careers develop. And in the meantime, we'll all check out Recovery for Athletes and wish you all the best with that. And hopefully it'll help fund this tennis thing once things are back where they're supposed to be.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Well,
appreciate it.
Thank you and good luck. And to my listeners, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time on Parenting Aces.
I'm Lisa Stone, and you've been listening to the Parenting Aces podcast. For tennis parents, by a tennis parent. If you like what you've heard, I hope you'll share the podcast with your tennis community. For all the information you need to navigate the junior and college tennis journey, be sure to check out ParentingAces.com.